Welcome everybody, I'm Ahab and I've got a new series for us here, um, Football Manager 2020, and I'm going to have a couple of different series of videos off of FM20. Way too many teams to play in FM20, which is a really good thing. Tons of players to explore, many formation to play in soccer, many different formations to play in soccer or football, however you want to say it. Um, I literally a couple weeks ago made a save in FM19, which I'm not uploading, with Deportivo La Coruna in La Liga in Spain. And I'm just going to start with them again here in FM20 because they are in a very similar position. They're in the second league in Spain. And one of the things I love to do in FM20 is build teams up to some larger level than they are, or get them to be well known within the league they're in. And I'll go more into depth in how I play once I get my Deportivo save loaded here. So give me a moment and I will see you after I get my save loaded. Okay, and we are back. Nice and loaded here with my Coruña save. So Deportivo was a team that had a lot of success in the Spanish leagues in the 80s, in the late 90s, and the early 2000s. And they have slowly kind of slunk off here. You can kind of see the graph. They won the top level in 99 2000, and they had a very successful run of 5 or 6 years here in the top flight. And they stayed up for a while, and then for the past 8, 9, almost 10 years, it's like they've been struggling to stay up in the first league and uh, struggle with any sort of success there. I'm not sure why that is, but when I was younger, Deportivo was a team that had a lot of respect. It was very popular. It battled it out with Real Madrid and Barcelona, the bigger teams in Spain, and some of the other bigger teams like Valencia. And it was a team they didn't mess with. And now they are in the second league in Spain and struggling to get up to speed, I guess is the way to put it. So that's one of the things I like to do in Football Manager. I like to take teams that had the potential to be big or at one time were big and building them back up into or building them up into a level of glory that is on par with the bigger teams in the world like Barcelona or Real Madrid, as I mentioned in Spain, Liverpool, Manchester United in England, um, Borussia Dortmund, or Juventus in Italy. Some level of success like that. So so that's the way I play Football Manager. Now, Football Manager 20, I wasn't actually planning on purchasing, but I did see a couple of preview videos by some of the larger Football Manager YouTubers like Bust the Net and Work the Space, and some of the things that it looks like SI has added to the game this year um, will make the game better than previous versions. So I had to jump on the bandwagon for this year. Normally I don't. Normally I wait every other year or so and buy that version, but I bought 20 even though I had already bought 19 last year. So how do I play? Like I said, I like to build teams up, and when I come in, I put my touch on everything. I uh, normally I decide what sort of formation I'm going to play based on the players of the team. But with Deportivo, um, unfortunately, I've really been wanting to play a 4-4-2, so I'm kind of forcing it on the team and the players, and they're coming along. We've had a pretty good start, which I'll show you in a little bit. I also try to play a pseudo Moneyball sort of style, meaning that I definitely don't go out and get the most expensive players, um, but I also don't necessarily sell my players when they come knocking, because most of the time the AI comes knocking, and the amounts for the players that I have aren't really worth me selling based upon the success I have with them. Sometimes I get a couple of gems, um, and sell for big money, and then I'm able to turn that around and get some more good players in. And there's that. I also like playing younger players, which I will show you is an issue with Coruna, at least in my mind. Um, Especially if I want to build a team up and get them jiving pretty well. Let's see here. So one of the first things I look at with any team that I'm going to be playing in FM is the staff. And I've already put my mark and made all my changes for this team that I'm going to do for this particular season, I think. The staff for Coruna was not that great. They had 6 coaches, which you can see I've got up to 7. And out of the 6 coaches, 2 were goalkeeping coaches and 2 were goalkeeping coaches and 3 were fitness coaches. Uh, and we only had 1 other field coach, which I changed. As you can see, our levels are pretty good for the second league. Their scouting was abysmal. They had 6 out of 6 scouts, but the attributes for the scouts were not very good at all. And that's one thing that I really like to have is a good scouting team, especially since I like to play Moneyball-ish uh, and make sure that I'm finding players that aren't necessarily going to break the bank, but that are still going to bring quality to my team. A couple of new positions for back office, technical director and loan manager. Got some great attributes for staff in there, and I don't know much about them. We'll learn together how they affect my save and going forward. The medical staff was pretty abysmal as well. The physios they had really poor medical attributes, and we've loaded staff up pretty much as well as we can. Thankfully, the board is not too hesitant to hire good staff. They are pretty tight with the budget with regards to players. After staff, and after I put my mark on the staff, I take a look at the squad because, frankly, if you don't have good staff, you're not going to have good players. And squad is quite interesting, at least when you start. If you start a save with Deportivo, notice they have a lot of players in the squad on loan, and that can be troubling. Um, and I think the reason they have a lot of players on loan is because their squad is aging in terms of with regards to soccer and how successful players are in their mid 30s, and we have a couple of players that are getting up there in age. The captain of Deportivo, Alex Bergantinos, here is 34, and a couple of other players that are in their 30s, uh, which I'll get into in a minute. But yeah, so when I loaded Deportivo with so many loaned players, that means that I'm not going to be able to really build teams around those players. And unfortunately, it is what it is, especially with how many players you can find, or at least I was able to find, no contracts or expired contracts. Really not the depth that I'm used to. I'm not sure if it's something in FM20 or just the way Coruna is. Um, Learning as I go here with FM20 since it's brand spanking new and not even technically out of beta yet. So really had to make some moves in letting some loan players go, bringing in some free transfers. I'll get into that in a second. But so I look at the squad and say, okay, where are we weak? Based upon what formation I'm going to play, what do I need to bring in? And as I said, unfortunately, I am fitting the team to a formation, which is not really a great way to play. But I really wanted to try a 4-4-2, and I'll get into the formation in a little. So based upon the formation I want to play, how are my players? Or I'm doing it the correct way, in my opinion, which is what formation should I play? I go in depth and see, okay, Danny, he is an okay goalkeeper. Thankfully, his best role is sweeper support because that's what I like to play as a goalkeeper. But definitely could improve, get a better player there. Um, Koke is on loan to us, supposedly a better goalkeeper than Danny Jimenez, but stats are on par with Danny Jimenez, and his form has not been so great when I've played him, so not necessarily a great goal. Thankfully, some of the other players have come up pretty big uh, with regards to their playing. See pretty good training going on here. Let's see here. Okay. So as I said, I go through the squad and see what changes I need to make, who I need to sell, if I'm going to sell somebody immediately, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with regards to the squad. And then I go into tactics and I make the tactic and see how the squad is going to jive in a particular tactic that I might want to run with them or what have you. Now, like I said, I'm fitting the squad to this tactic, not the other way around. Not really the way to play, in my opinion, but like I said, really wanted to try a 4-4-2, and Bustinett had a good one that he had on his channel, which I can link below, called Mave's 4-4-2, and it really is pretty successful. He made it for 19, FM19, but it's working really well in FM20 here. So what sort of changes did I make to the squad in order to get it to the point I'm at right now? Well, like I said, I would say almost a little bit less than half of the first team squad at Deportivo was players loaned in when I loaded, and quite a few of them were strikers, and most of them I let go immediately because most of them weren't nearly as good as the ones I've kept on, or they just didn't fit either player role that I wanted to have in my function. So we let go. I think we let go 6 or 7 loanees. Um, one of them I held on to, and I'm forgetting the guy's name because he was fitting in nicely on the wide right here. But his salary for loan, we were paying out close to $1 million US a year on him. That's something I needed to save immediately because the finances are quite tight at Deep. So got rid of a whole bunch of loanees in, brought in a handful of expired free contract folks, and we were off to the races. So really, Deportivo was not set up to run a 4-4-2. It was really more set up to run something like a 4-1-2-3 or 4-1-4-1 style formation. And I brought in, let's see here, I brought in Traver um, for a wide midfielder position. I brought in Kevin Lacruz for the wide right position. I brought in Bjornsson here for the left or for RPM, a roaming playmaker. And I think I might have brought in, did I bring in one? Yes, this gentleman, Dejan Lekic, or Lekic, because he is a classic style target man. Pretty good stats, on the decline a little bit, but he is an impact sub. He's had quite a run. His average rating is just below 7, 1 goal, but when he's in the game, definitely has an effect, even though he's slow and has very little stamina. So how have we done thus far this season? I'm picking it up quite a few games in. I've had a couple of recordings previously that didn't sound well, and I had to delete them and start over. So you can see we've had a pretty good run here. No defeats yet in the league, which is really nice, in my opinion. Means that even though I don't have the best players for the tactic I'm running, that it's a pretty sound tactic. Then again, I am in League 2 and in the second league for Spain, which um, I'm not sure. We'll see how I go here. I've got a couple of tough matches with them coming up here. Real Santander is a strong team, and Malaga, until recently, was undefeated in the league. They just got their first loss the last match or two and Girona. These three teams here, I think, are going to be kind of tough. So we'll probably, what I'm going to try to do for next episode is have match for Real Santander and Extremadura, and I'm going to jump to the matches for Malaga and Girona because that might be able to give me a little bit more of an idea of how things are going to go with this team for the rest of the season. Uh, we don't have the Spanish Cup loaded in yet, but that doesn't get loaded in until December. So tactic. The tactic, like I said, is not one of my own. I'm not great at making my own tactics uh, because well, I just don't. I'm not great at it. I do want to try a classic 4-3-3 wide, where there is going to be one midfielder in the center and then a wide midfielder on the right and left, and wide attacking midfielders for the striker. But I'm just going to start another save with I think AC Milan for that, and that will be a whole separate series. But with this particular formation, 4-4-2, like I said, not my own. It's a copy of Maeve's 4-4-2 from Bust the Net. If you all are fans of FM20, you don't know Bust the Net, definitely go look it up. He has so much content on Football Manager, and he knows so much about it. I've learned so much just from watching his videos over time that it's really helped me pick up my game in FM. Uh, Not just obviously FM20 because that just came out, but so much to learn from. So Maeve's 4-4-2, you got a target man and a pressing forward, which they appear to work really well together. And I'm I used to believe that you didn't necessarily need two strikers, but I'm feeling like it's going to be a strong combination to have two strikers in FM20 so far. Roaming playmaker in the middle, Carolero along with the roaming playmaker. These two work pretty well together for creation, especially with the wide midfielders running up and down the sides here. Um, they do leave a good bit of space open at times, and I feel if I'm playing much better teams, that's going to be used, and I'm going to have pretty big goal differentials to come back from. A pair of wing backs on the side, they have the only player instructions in the formation, which is cross aim the target man, and that seems to work pretty well. And let's see here, a no nonsense center back puts the ball out regularly, things up, but this line still has an issue occasionally with offsides. And what I mean by that is I've let in a couple of goals where the no nonsense center back, and not just this guy, but the backup I have, they sit a little bit deeper than the rest of the line, and they've let goals in because they were sitting deeper on the right side of the field here, and the ball comes in on the left, and the guy makes a good run in down here behind Soma and gets a goal. The formation plays a mix of long balls, kind of like an old school style of English soccer, and technical. And it really doesn't necessarily depend on the mentality and instructions that we have going on. It depends on other team in a way. Uh, I guess it does depend a little bit on the tactical style that we have loaded, but I've seen the team switch from long balls to playing more technical without even making any changes, which is interesting to see. I don't know if that's new in Football Manager 20. Uh, the match engine supposedly has a lot of tweaks, and I don't know if it's completely new, but a lot of people are lauding it, giving it a lot of props for being better than it was, and in my opinion, it certainly is much better than it used to be. Trying to clear out the here we go screen here. Okay. So, who are the players that I'm playing with, and how are they doing? So I was using free transfer target man that I picked up as a starter, but I didn't feel like he had a big enough impact on the game. So I've gone with a contract player we have who's part of La Coruña's Christian Santos. Um, Pretty much pretty much our attacking workhorse. He has some great stats and he's improving nicely, and fits into the target man role pretty well. Uh, Longo is on loan to us from Inter Milan. Not really training that well, but his stats are better than the rest of the team. And I, depending on how things are going, I swapped these two because while Santos does have better heading, Longo has better jumping reach. And sometimes it throws the other team in a fit depending on how they're marking. They've been man marking target man. So if I swap the players, so they don't appear to pick up on that too quickly. Sometimes the other player who gets swapped to the pressing forward gets in and scores a quick goal right after the swap. Kind of nice, actually. Uh, some pre-transfers for my wide right player in Traver, and Cruz. La Cruz just came back after injury, so hopefully he'll be able to get up to speed. But Traver has been impressing. I was not expecting him to play as well as he has. I mean, he has an average rating of 784, 2 goals and 1 assist over the last 5 games. Great form. And he has had some banger goals. Both goals came in. He was sitting well outside the penalty box and just banged them in, which is kind of nice. I like the increase in percentage chance of long goals in FM20 is definitely in match engine. It's nice to see. One thing that's also nice is not every time, or not 99% of the time, where a wide player runs down the side and is going to bang in a cross. In old football managers, it would bounce off the defender for a corner 99% of the time. Um, it's certainly not less than it's much more uh, apparent the change that they made there in this version of Football Manager in FM20. They don't necessarily bang off the defender 99% of the time. It's not all the time they make the cross, but it's certainly much more than it used to be, and that is something that always frustrated me with previous versions of Football Managers. I got somebody running down the wing with the ball, they cross it in, and it's off the defender immediately for still happens frequently, but it's less frequent and less frustrating than it used to be. The wing backs are set to overlap in all of the tactical styles I use this particular tactic. Unless I'm playing a particularly strong team, I'll uncheck overlap, just so it's not encouraging to run down the wing. The wingbacks already do a lot of running, but the overlap forces them to get up and be more of a presence, and they definitely affect getting balls into the two attackers, two strikers. Both of the midfielders, at least when it comes to scoring goals, come into play because obviously they're playmakers, or at least the roaming playmaker is. But the players I have, they don't have the traits as far as I'm aware of, but they do come into the box late, and that does affect things nicely. Shibasaki, I was not actually starting him until more recently, and he had some pretty good run of form there, above 7 as well. But 3 assists in 5 games, just some strong stats there. And Vincente is actually the gentleman I've been playing before the other guy in roaming playmaker, but I've moved him over to Carolero. He's been solid too. Like I said, I'm really fitting the players into the tactic, not necessarily fitting the tactic to the players. So aren't the strongest players in regards to the midfield, but they are definitely doing better than I thought they would. I'm hoping I can keep this guy on. He is my highest paid player at the moment. Uh, Not great when it comes to the defensive side of a wide midfielder, but his other stats are strong for the second division, and he has come up big, especially with his free kick taking at 18. He's come up big with a couple of nice kicks. No goals in the last 5 games, but that's because he was injured for 3 of them. So hopefully he gets back on form. So really where I'm at right now is sending my scouting team out to find players that their contracts are going to be up at the end of this season, so that I can snap them for 3 months or 6 months, or at least try to. We'll see how that goes because I don't have much budget left, and so unfortunately, it doesn't always work out where I can get a player that I need. But one of the dynamics of Coruna is, let's see where Club Vision is what I meant. Club Vision. One of the Club Visions is it limits the age group where I can actually re-sign players or sign players, and that's common. AC Milan, I can't sign new players over 30, which is interesting. Um, but with Deportivo, I've got limitations here on who I can and can't sign age-wise. And if you look at the squad that I'm playing here, Neko Boveda is my rotational right winger. He's a pretty good player, 30. My defender, 29. David Simon, my starting right back, 30. John Ogu is a free guy that I I signed him, and he literally got injured the next day after signing and training, and he has not played a game. He's been injured straight from that I signed him. I signed him like July 30th, and he's been injured since then. It was just he played like 5 minutes in one friendly, and then I had to take him off. But yeah, I mean, so Christian Santos, my star striker here, is 31. Dejan Lekit, 34. Probably not going to re-sign him. Ton of players on loan here, so I'm basically gonna have to bring in a whole new squad. The captain is 34, and while he does have some pretty good stats, actually he might be easy to sign because his contract has a clause in it, 1 year extension after 20 matches. So that's something I'm looking to probably do just because I'd like to keep him on. He's a pretty good leader. But I will probably, if no matter what happens this season, whether I get promoted with Coruna or not, um, I'm probably going to be, it's going to be difficult because I'm going to be making a new team. Definitely have to get in a new goalkeeper. I'm not happy with either choices. So I've got my scouts out doing some scouting, and we'll see who I'm able to bring in. I think that's enough blabbering about how I've set up Coruna. For now, I'm going to stop this particular video and thank you all for joining me. I will have a second one up very soon with some actual La Coruna playing in the Maves 442. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again. Bye.